I started as a youth advocate and then as a sexual assault advocate. And then for a number of years, I was the assistant director. I was interim at one point as well, an interim director at one point. And then, yes, I was an assistant director and then left for a brief period of time and went to a state agency and then came back as the executive director. I think just being there a long time kind of defines my role. I was a little bit of a historian, or at least during the period I was there, for a lot of people who were employed there or board members or community members. And I think in such a difficult field and in victim services, it really helps people who are maybe struggling with why they're doing this work to understand what's been done before and kind of what kind of impact that's making. When I came to Access in 2003, we were just moving into a larger shelter. I spent some time in the smaller shelter, which I really enjoyed actually, but it was during the transition. They had already bought the new building, and that was the story, was that bigger is better. And putting everybody in one building, including all of the staff, was going to be the best thing for clients and for the programs. And so I bought into that. But yeah, over the years, I saw how having more and more survivors together in a living environment was had the potential to be harmful. It certainly had the potential to be supportive as well. But I think as I realized that, we just did what we could to deal with the here and now. Okay, so this is hard for victims. Let's see what we can do to help them have some relief. Let's start a new support group or a new program or whatever. I would never say that reorganization of a housing model was my idea, but it was something that I believed in. So there was a very contentious time, I would say, in that proposed idea, and also the proposed idea that folks needed to take on larger service areas, that they needed to do their services so differently. So it all happened at once, which I think is unfortunate, because it would have been nice if programs could have been, told, reorganize your housing program, but let everything else stay stable for a while. But that's not how it happened. It was take on a few more counties, take on, double your staff, and reorganize your housing program. But I'm glad that it happened. I'm very glad that it happened for survivors, and I think for staff too, although staff were struggling through that change. The bottom line of what that remodel or reorganization looks like is decentralize. Don't put everybody in one building. Don't put staff all in one building. Get them out in the community more. And for the victims who need housing, do it in several ways versus one.
Even in the midst of all of that, because I remember how chaotic that was and how we had to bounce between talking with local funders and talking with state funders and trying to explain the model that really wasn't represented anywhere else. It was very kind of amorphous and weird to describe to folks who weren't buried in it. I do feel like we slowed down just enough to be explaining thoroughly the reasons why we wanted to do it, and to say, look, we're not only are we seeing how this can be harmful, but we're hearing from people that they want to have more control over their own space. They don't want to parent in public. They deserve to have control over their own security and not have to be buzzed in and out by people who may be half their age and who don't necessarily, while having training, don't always necessarily have the same lived experience that they do. Right. And as adults, they should be trusted to know what it means to keep themselves safe.